chuji anji podrana toksen sanji kanji ngonyet razme shurga musmas tunza save lama namla sorate kirbe sanji chua shigdani nyambadru bashomla tanta sanjune manere tambe chanso to chanso shabla sorate lame chosme chanso toje shirke kere padma shumla chi shenru tsinga kelwe nyubu ye tanda trupa tanjina trupara ho ranjin lame trambe kajela Cosme jaro shitru latso rale jana nipre tujo tuyo yumi jivare shinji lo. Homage to Sakyamuni Buddha. Homage to our root Lama, Gelwe Nyugu Rinpoche, raised bodhicitta to benefit countless suffering sentient beings. May all beings have happiness and all the causes of happiness. May they be free of suffering and all the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the great happiness, devoid of suffering, and forever dwell in the great equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. To sacred Bodhisattva, the precious and excellent mind, where it is not, may it arise. Where it is, may it never decline, consistently growing, rising higher and higher. And we carry on these teachings of Atisha, the Bodhisattva's garland of jewels. Last week and the week before, we had an introduction to Atisha, and we spoke about homage, we spoke about enthusiasm, and about doubt. So be very careful of doubt, because doubt really affects our practice. It stops us from practicing. Sometimes we don't even start. And this is really the topic of today as well. Dullness and laziness and procrastination. They also stop us from our practice. And we also spoke about enthusiasm and practicing with all your heart and practice with great joy. We really have this incredible opportunity to be practicing, that we've met with the Dharma, and through the Dharma that we can transform. And we can really transform our mind, and we can really benefit others. And I'll start with the verse. Again, it's the first verse. Be done with doubt and indecision, and embrace your practice with all your heart. Shake off lethargy or lethargy, dullness and laziness, and strive always with enthusiasm and joy. We'll go to the third line of this verse. Shake off lethargy or lethargy, dullness and laziness. Why is it so often that we don't practice, or we lazy, or we procrastinate, or that our practice is dull? It's often because we don't have renunciation. Now remember, renunciation is, we say, we must give up attachment. It's very important to give up attachment. Give up attachment to all of these material things. It doesn't mean that we have to give up all material things. We just have to give up the attachment, the emotion, this habit of holding on to things and desiring things so much. So there's some people they say to the Lama, oh, this is not for me. I don't know if I can give up everything. This Lama just wants me to suffer, to have nothing. This is not what it's about. It's about the attachment, giving up the attachment. And renunciation also has to do when we realize, because we know, or we learn about the true nature of this world, that everything is impermanent. If we don't know this, then we waste time. If we don't realize that our life is precious, we waste it. What do we mean by waste it? Is we don't do meaningful things. we have this life, and maybe we're going to have 60 or 70 years, maybe it's pretty predetermined, it might change depending on health. Suddenly it changes very quickly. And this is what we're talking about impermanence as well. You never know. It might change very quickly, within months, within years. It could end, or even tomorrow. So don't put off what you can do today. Practice today. Don't put it off to tomorrow or the next day or the next day. You know, when we make these plans, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it the next week. So sometimes we stay at home and we say relax, we'll start again next week. And the next week you've got it, all that time is free. And then what happens? Next week comes, and just as you start, this person walks in. Oh, I really need help with this. Telephone rings, or there's something that desperately needs help with something else. A friend phones and says, surprise, I'm coming to visit. You won't believe what happened. And then all that time that you thought that you had to do, that you had to practice, that you had to do things in normal life as well, suddenly it's gone. It's not there anymore. So don't put it off. And this life is precious. It really is precious. And it's important that we know that this life is precious. When we do, then we value this life. And we do what is meaningful. Think, what is the most meaningful thing to do with this life? Of course, I'm going to say, from a practitioner's point of view, is to transform your own mind and to benefit others. As Buddha said, abandon negativity, practice positivity, transform your own mind. This is the teaching of Buddha. If we're lazy, if we procrastinate, what happens is we put it off. Think, I won't start today, I'll start tomorrow. Then tomorrow you think, I still got this meeting and I've got to prepare this, I'll start the next day. And the next day, then, there's these people that I have to sort things out with, and there's this job, and I have to go traveling, and I'll start next week. And then that feeling to do it becomes less and less, and then a year, 5 years, 10 years later, you don't do it. It steals our life force. This laziness, this procrastination steals our life force. So that's what we are saying in the beginning, that we maybe have 60, 70, 80 years. And that's what we have. The clock is ticking. Every moment, the time goes by. We can't get it back. It's gone. So it's good to check every now and then, what am I doing? Is this the most valuable thing? Is this the most meaningful thing? And how much time do we really have to practice? We don't have so much time to practice. You think of normal people, and I say normal people, people in normal, ordinary day life, how much time do they have to practice? If we go through 24 hours of the day, if you go to work, most people say minimum 8 hours. You have to prepare for work, put on your face, get dressed, travel to work. So that's traveling, putting on your face, or preparations, and then traveling back. It's maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, let's say. And then 8 hours of work. And the reality is, for most people, they spend much more time working. Maybe they don't spend all that time at work, but these days with connectivity, they're always connected to work. How often do they just switch off everything when they leave the office, and then that's it? It's done for the day. People check emails, they come home, and they still work. So 8 hours, I think, is really very conservative. So we have 10 hours involved around work, with going to work and coming back. And then we have to eat. How much time do we spend eating? I would say around 2 hours, 3 meals a day. So we have time to eat. We also have to prepare the meals. We have to think about what we're going to cook. We have to buy the things to eat, to prepare the meals. So I'd say there also 2 hours, minimum 2 hours. So that's then 12 and a half hours, or 12 hours, 10, 12 hours. And then we sleep. Average people, how much do they sleep? 7 to 9 hours a day. So we say 8 hours for sleeping. And you're still going to go to bed, prepare for bed. Waking up takes a little bit of time, but we say 8 hours. So it's 20 hours. And then apart from the work and sleeping and eating, we have a social life, we have connections, we talk to people, we have our domestic chores to do. Sometimes we have to run errands. We're tired, we've had a long day, we want to relax, maybe have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a glass of wine. And we connect again, either by telephone. They say in the States that the average person spends 5 hours a day on the telephone. So in my calculations at the moment, we can't add those 5 hours. There aren't 5 hours left. So let's say we spend 2 hours doing this. That's 22 hours. Then you've got your family, you've got your partner, you've got your children. So at the end of the day, to fit all of that in 2 hours, maybe you've got an hour if you're lucky to practice. So only an hour a day. How much time is there really to practice? It's very important to practice, to transform. We need to practice. But you see how much time we give it for the benefit of transforming ourselves. We give it very little time. There isn't that much time. And over and above that, that hour that we've got, unless we do it first thing in the morning, or somehow during the day, in allocated time, by the time the evening comes, we're tired, we're exhausted. It's been a long day, done a lot. And then it's difficult to get motivated to practice. And even if you are, it's very difficult to have that energy and that mindfulness and that awareness. So I understand it's difficult to make time to practice, but it's also very important to do it. You look at these past gurus, the current gurus, the really great teachers. They didn't waste any time. They practiced whenever they could, every moment, wherever they are, they use as a form of practice. So in fact, they never stop practicing. Everywhere is a practice. You hear stories of great teachers like Longchenpa. What did he do? He had a sack, and that's what he slept in. He jumped in the sack when he went to sleep, and he got out of it, put it away, and carried on practicing again. Now Longchenpa was a very famous teacher. He was one of the lineage masters, really great lineage masters. After him came Jigme Limpa, then Gyalwe Nyugu Rinpoche, and then, or Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu Rinpoche, and then Patrul Rinpoche, and all of them very well known in their own right. Patrul Rinpoche was the one that wrote the words of my perfect teacher, and his teacher was Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu. And you hear of these, before they're enlightened, they practice like this. Once they're enlightened, or even before, they're always benefiting others, they're teaching, they're listening to people, they're helping people, and when there's no people around, they continue their practice. So they're really, really entrenched into themselves this value of the preciousness of this human life. They really don't want to waste any time. And often when eventually the time comes for them, when they're going to pass away, they embrace death because they just feel that one is, of course, because they've really great practice and great realization. The other is they've really used this life and they don't have regrets. They've used it meaningfully. You hear stories or writings of teachers that went into the cave to practice, and at the cave entrance there were a whole lot of bushes, and they thought, should I clear the bushes? And they thought, no. Why waste the time? Who knows if I'm coming out or when I'm coming out? When they came out, should I clear the bushes? No. Who knows when I'm coming back, if I even ever come back? So they practiced impermanence and they didn't waste time. If we were practicing in a cave, what would we do? make it nice and comfortable, put a nice bed or a nice mattress down, get a gas stove, maybe a whole lot of plates, some pans, organize so we can cook food when we want, maybe get a solar panel, and so we carry on. But what we're doing, we're not practicing. What we're actually doing is we are being distracted, procrastinating sometimes. And then once we've done it all, we think, oh, then we're all set up, but then we spend so much time cleaning it. And you see this happens as well in the monastery. In Yachin monastery, sometimes you hear Rinpoche says to a student, oh, how long have you been here? And they say, oh, maybe 3 months, Rinpoche. Because over there's 10,000 nuns and monks. And he says, yes, and how's your practice going? And they say, oh, I've been so busy, I've been fixing my hut, making it look good, doing whatever's necessary. And Rinpoche said, all that time they haven't practiced. What they've been doing is just fixing and organizing their house or their little hut. Sometimes the Tibetans even see these people from outside coming and they say, these poor people, they've got such a good opportunity to practice, and all they do is they're fixing their house, they're making their garden nice, and they'll be doing that next year, and they'll be doing it the next year, and they don't actually practice. They lose this opportunity. And people, they come also from these, from maybe a villa or a very wealthy place or a nice big house. For some people this is the case, and then they're living in this little wooden hut because they want to be at the monastery, they want to practice and transform. And what's happening? They're not practicing. They're not transforming, they're wasting their time, and their attachment for this little house becomes as much as their attachment to the big house, to the villa. And where there's attachment, there's suffering. And this, what one of the purposes of practicing is letting go of all of this attachment. What is the big problem? Our mind gets distracted. We're so used to our certain habits that it's very easy for us to fall into them. And sometimes one of those habits is being lazy by being busy. We're always busy, always doing things. And although it might seem like life is very full, are those meaningful? Or are we just filling in the time? Some places you go to even a month in advance, they've organized their lives. You want to join me? Hey, how are you? How about we get together for a cup of coffee? It'll be nice to see you. Oh, I'm organized for the next month. After this month, I can pencil you in. So busy. But is it meaningful? This is also very important. And why are people like this one? As we said, they don't realize impermanence. They don't realize the preciousness of their human life. And they don't realize the infallibility of cause and effect. And just because we don't believe in cause and effect, or think it's a superstition, doesn't mean it doesn't apply. It applies, irrespective of whether you believe it or not. It's like those huts of yours. And this is also quite important to remember. If you make a lot of lamp offerings, if you're leaving the house or your hut, put those lamp offerings out. And light them again when you come back. Because there is a small possibility that the house burns down. So take that care. Rather just put it down, then all the causes and conditions for the house burning down will no longer be there. So then we won't have the result of burning the house or the hut. So causes and conditions, when they come together, there's a result. This is cause and effect, and we can't deny it. Even if we want to say it's superstition, or I don't believe it, that's some kind of Buddhist thing. It's for Buddhists. Even in Christianity, they say, what you sow, so shall you reap. This is also cause and effect. It's like you want to grow a flower. To grow the flower, you need a seed. The seed needs soil. The soil needs water, not too much, not too little. needs sunlight, needs the right temperatures. You put all of these together, there's a good chance your flower is going to grow. That seed is going to germinate and you're going to have a flower. So you put those causes and conditions together and the flower arises, the flower grows. Same cause and effect as well. If you're nasty to people, if you put people down, if you're condescending towards them, if you're rude to them, if you shout at them, hurt their feelings, you put those causes and conditions together, and then you do it a few times, plant a seed in that person's mind. They don't want to see you anymore. They don't want to be around you. Or they talk back to you very quickly because you're always hurting them. It's also cause and effect. You hurt other people, they feel hurt. Either they're not going to want to be around you, or they're not going to be so happy around you. Same as well, loving kindness, compassion, generosity. You treat people in this way, and it also plants a seed in their mind stream. And they feel better around you. They feel comfortable around you. They might even smile at you the next time you walk past, have a little chat to you. So you put the causes and conditions together, you get a result. You get the fruit. So if you put all those causes and conditions together to create unhappiness, you get the fruit of unhappiness. To create happiness, you get happiness. What is also happens as well is people these days they don't follow cause and effect, or they don't think it works, or they don't know about it, but they don't do things. Why? Often because of fear, or because they really want to do it. I think it'll be a lot of fun, but they don't want to be caught. This is their biggest worry, not that if I do these things I create a habit that I might do it again and more often, and irrespective of whether I get caught or not, we're planting these seeds, and the result will come back. Whatever goes around comes around. Every action has an equal opposite reaction. So when you do these things, don't think just because you're not caught this time that you haven't planted a seed. That seed has been planted. It's just waiting for those causes and conditions to come to be ripened. Maybe next lifetime, maybe the following lifetime. Maybe it doesn't come back. Maybe you steal something, you don't get caught, but maybe later somebody steals something of yours. And practice, as I say, is so important. You plant the seeds, you practice, you transform your mind, you grow in love and kindness and compassion. It helps you. It helps you in this life. It helps you in your future lives as well. The whole point of practice is not just for this life. It's really a great investment. We often say make a long-term investment. This is the longest term investment. Planning for our next life and the future lives. We create these habits that once we have these habits, just habits like smoking. In the beginning it's not so easy maybe, but once we get used to it, it's very easy to have a cigarette. It's very easy to look at our phone again and again and again. We've created these habits. So if you practice love and kindness and patience and generosity, it becomes easier and easier for you to practice, to do it. And then in future lives, it's very easy to do. And because you're doing it, your life goes well, your life is happy. Giving, you receive back again. Not that this is the point, not the purpose. So it really does help us for our future lives. We must work. We must put in practice. We must put in effort. Put in diligence. Discipline. Very important. Diligence and discipline. This is like the soil for which we put the seeds in so the plants can grow. Without the soil, the plants won't grow. The same in daily life as well. If you've got a business, if you don't put effort into it, if you're not disciplined or diligent, all you do is party, sleep, play, eat. Do you think your business is going to thrive? Do you think it's going to be successful? But if you put effort into it, there's a good chance, there's a better chance that it'll bring about more positive results, that it'll grow. And you can't force people. You can try to bribe them, you can try to force them, but if they're not interested, they're not going to do it. They might do it for a while, but then they're just going to forget about it. And that for ourselves as well. It's very important, that enthusiasm. And there become many different reasons for us to practice. Sometimes suffering. Sometimes we want to benefit others. We wish for them to be really happy. So we embark on the path so we can become really able to benefit others. Benefit others without selfish motives. Benefit others irrespective of what they say about us, what they do to us, how they slander us. Your interest, your wishes for their happiness. And fear, suffering. I can use an example for myself as well, suffering. Had a little bit of midlife crisis. What happened in those events, there was a bit of suffering. That suffering was the catalyst for looking for answers. What is this? What is the meaning of life? Why are we doing this? Do we have to experience this? Is there another way? So sometimes the suffering, really be grateful for it, because we look to see there can be. Is there a different way? And if there is, what do we do? And it can be fear. There's the story of the great Milarepa, an incredible saint. And he used to sing great songs of realization and is respected right across Tibetan Buddhism. And when he was 7, his father died. His family was quite wealthy. When his father died, he said, if anything happens to me, the money should go to your uncle and your aunt, and let them look after the financial affairs and look after your mother and yourself. And when his father passed away, the uncle and aunt did the financial part, the material part very well. They took everything. And they managed it very well for their own benefit. They treated Milarepa and his mother like slaves, gave him hardly anything to eat, made them work very hard. And his mother was quite resentful about this. And she said, I would like you to do something to enact some kind of payback for this. And so he did. He went and he learnt some dark arts, and he became very good at this. And then one day, the whole family, all the aunts and the uncles and their family, once and twice removed, all came together for some big party. They're all in the house together, and Milarepa created this huge hailstorm. And this hailstorm killed every single one of them, 37 of them. And after that he realized, this is not good. He believed in cause and effect. And he really thought about it, and he said, oh, killing 37 people, this is going to send me to the hells. And this is really somewhere I don't want to end up. And in Buddhism we say as well, if you take a life, you have to repay it 500 times. For any betting person, these are not good odds. Any normal person, they don't have to really understand numbers. Take one life, repay 500 lives. Doesn't make sense, does it? So he really wanted to absolve himself, or repent, or transform himself from these negativities. What could he do? So he went and found a great teacher. And this teacher said to him, you practice today and you practice tonight, and then come and speak to me. During the day he thought, I'll just rest. The teacher said I could practice at night, it would also be okay. Nighttime came, he thought, This is so easy. I'll just sleep tonight. The next morning, when he met with the teacher said, well, how was your practice? And he said, well, I didn't do anything. The teacher said, well, I can't help you. The only person I think that can really help you is this teacher called Mapa. And in the beginning, the introduction to Atisha, we mentioned Mapa, the one-eyed translator. The eye-opening translator. And when he got to Mapa, he really had this incredible connection with Mapa. He felt when he was there that his mind just calmed down, his mind was at peace. And he really requested Mapa for teachings. And Mapa really, really treated him very harshly. Mapa said to him, first, you've got two options. You've got one of two options. Is that I give you food, you go find the teaching somewhere else. Or I give you teachings, but you go find your own food. So Milarepa wanted the teachings. He went and begged for his food. When he came back, Mapa wouldn't let him into the teachings. Although he's teaching other people, he carried on teaching them. He gave Mapa a task. He gave Milarepa a task. He said, you have to build a tower. So Milarepa built this tower, and Mapa said, you have to build it on your own. One of the days, about halfway through, some people were walking past, and they said, can we help you? And they helped him with a little bit, and they carried on. And Milarepa eventually finished the tower, went to Mapa and said, I finished. And Mapa said, people helped you, didn't they? He said, yes. He said, tear it down and build it again. And he worked day and night. And they say that, his flesh had been rubbed off, and you could see maybe his bones and even his inners. But he worked. He really, really had great faith in Mapa. And then when he finished, Mapa gave him teachings, and he went into a cave. And he didn't have much. What he would do for food was he would gather the nettles around and boil them in water. And this was his food. He even became green from this, his body. And you can always see him because he's got the statues, either he's looking a little bit green, he's always got his hand to his ear. And he became a phenomenal practitioner. That people still sing his praises and relate to him and talk about his teachings. Why do we tell you this? What's the purpose of this whole story? What was his motivator? Fear. He was scared of going to the hells and of the karma, cause and effect, because of killing 37 people. And procrastination also puts us off. Tomorrow, the next day, when we do that, it piles up. It becomes even more difficult to start because it just feels like it's too much to do. Why don't we start? Sometimes because lack of confidence. It's different. We're not too sure about it. Sometimes just because we're lazy. But it creates anxiety within ourselves. We don't do it. We worry about doing it tomorrow. Worry about doing it the next day. Little silly example is like when we're young, you like a girl or a boy, whichever way, and you get their telephone number, and then you say, okay, today I'm going to phone them, see if there's a chance, maybe we could meet. Then you had to pick up the phone. You couldn't send an SMS, you couldn't send an email, unless you saw them personally. So you think, let me call. And you start worrying, what am I going to say to her? How can I make a good impression? And then you really feel stumped. You're not a great conversationalist. You're quite timid, quite quiet. You say, okay, 10 o'clock. 5 to 10, 10 minutes to 10, you pace around the telephone. At 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you go away, you come back. Just before 11, you're doing the same. In between, you've been worrying, oh, come on, just do it. Come on. Don't be a hussy. Do it. 12 o'clock, you don't do it. 1 o'clock, the whole day, you procrastinate. And then the next day the same. By the time the third day comes, you just got to do it. If you don't, you never know. So you have to try. So eventually you pick up that phone, and the phone starts ringing, and you go brrr, brrr. But each one of those brrr feels like a lifetime. The handle of the phone is a little bit slippery, perspiring even maybe. And then the phone is answered, and it's the parents. And the parents, "Oh, nice, who are you? Tell us something about yourself." And eventually you get the person you want to speak to on the phone, and you blubber it all out. Bup, 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 bup. And then they say, "Oh, I've already got a boyfriend. Oh, I'm really busy. I'm sorry, I don't really have much time for the next while." And then it's the end. The biggest anxiety, the hardest part was that procrastination, that worry, that anxiety, all of these stories that the mind built up. Of course, it would be great if she said, "Yeah, sure, let's meet. Maybe we can meet sometime." But they don't. Maybe that time didn't. So, oh well. Okay. A little bit disappointed. But you haven't got to know them really well, so it's not such a big let down. You hardly know them. And also, the relief. That relief of having done it. Sometimes nicer than the fact that you've been let down. So procrastination, be very careful of procrastination. If you can, sometimes I heard somebody saying what they do is they go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and on 0 you start. Use this. It sounds very simple, but it really helps. It can really help. And if when you're starting as well, it's difficult for yourself to have the discipline to do it, then find a group. When you're with a group, you have this time is dedicated to this. Everybody's doing the same thing. No telephones, no leaving the room to go and do this and do that. If you're on your own, let me do this quickly, let me do that quickly, let me quickly make this phone call. And then that time that you had set aside for practice is gone, and the energy that you had for it is also gone. So join a group as well. Give yourself the opportunity. It really can benefit you. And also something that causes us not to start or not to practice is when life is good. The relationship is good. The friends are good. Work is good. Health is good. Everything's ticking along nicely. You think, oh, the samsara, it's not so much suffering. What's wrong with it? This life is good. It's important that we practice, especially when life is good. Then it's the easiest time to practice. If we suddenly have a big, huge problem, and then we suddenly want to use these techniques to change, it's very difficult. But if you've been practicing when times were good, one, the good times can be better. Second, maybe the bad times are not going to come, or they're not going to be so harsh because you've been practicing. And also, we're much better at being able to deal with it. Just like these great singers, these great actors, sports people. It's amazing. How did they do that? This is incredible. But what have they done? Hours and hours and days and years of practice. They don't just come out onto the stage and just sing. They have practiced. So they're saying practice, practice, practice. And then when things arise, if they arise, you're able to deal with it much, much easier. And watch dullness. What is dullness? Dullness is the state of mind. You're sitting there, you're meditating, but you're not meditating. Your mind, your body's here, your mind is somewhere else. Bring it back. Or even your mind isn't even somewhere else, you're just completely switched off. This is not practice. This can become a great hindrance, a great obstacle to your practice. If you do it often, you create this habit, and it becomes more and more and stronger and stronger. If you're tired, go to sleep. When you're fresh again, come and practice again. Don't sleep during the practice as best as you can. Of course, it's going to happen to every single one of us. I often see us sitting there. It's going to happen to all of us. But as best as you can, don't make this a habit. Some people, after the meditation, they think, oh, I always feel so refreshed after meditation. Why? Because they've been sleeping. This is not meditation, this is sleeping. It's very important that we maintain the right mindfulness and awareness. As best as we can, be aware of every moment. What motivates us to be like this is remembering renunciation. How precious this life is. Impermanence, everything changes. That there is suffering. We all know there's suffering. Every one of us has experienced suffering. And the fallibility of cause and effect. And lastly, for tonight, love and kindness, patience, joy, happiness, jealousy, arrogance, competitiveness, desire, greed, attachment, anger, blame, revenge, where do all of these arise from? We dedicate the merits. Teach to here for this session. First, we dedicate first to our precious teachers. Gyalwe Nyugu Rinpoche, Lama Achok, Trulga Arik Rinpoche, and all perfect teachers, in the greatest of gratitude. That by these merits may all attain omniscience, having defeated the enemies of wrongdoings, birth, old age, sickness, and death. May all be liberated from the suffering of samsara. Sonam de tamja zipanye, tobnye nyepe drana kajeja, keka nachir balam trupai, tibu tsoli droa, droa.